And Sadiq Khan joins me now. Good morning to you. Why do you think the president has singled you out for criticism?
Well, it's for the president to explain that and those who are his allies to explain that. I'm quite clear, though, that one of the great things about London and our country is the rights we have in this country: freedom of speech, freedom to protest and freedom to assemble. In fact, the UK and the US uniquely have these rights enshrined in America in their constitution, and we of course have them in common law and our unwritten constitution. And it's important that the protests taking place today in London are peaceful and good-spirited. There'll be protests tomorrow, by the way, from the extreme far right and from pro-Trump supporters, and it's important those two are peaceful. It's not for me to censor or to decide what is in good taste and what is in bad taste, but to realise actually that here in London there are many things that we should celebrate, and one of those is free speech.
But he has specifically blamed you for the rise in crime in the capital and for your handling of terrorism.
Well, let me deal with this. I mean, we as a city are grappling with the evils of terrorism. Like other cities, we suffered terror attacks last year. We unfortunately lost 14 people. They're still in our thoughts and prayers. Manchester also suffered a terror attack, lost 22 people, including young people. Paris, Nice, Brussels, Berlin, cities in America all suffered terror attacks. And it's for President Trump to explain why he singled me as the mayor of London out and not the mayors of other cities and leaders of other cities. But also he's linking immigration in Europe with the rise in crime in England and Wales. Crime in England and Wales has been going up for the last 4 years, including in London. South Yorkshire has seen a rise of crime of 61% over the last 3-4 years. Manchester, more than 60%. And it's for President Trump to explain why he thinks this is linked with immigration, but also why he thinks I'm responsible for immigration to Europe or indeed to the UK. I've got no power over these things.
There is a bit of blood between the two of you, isn't there? There's a bit of a history, a Twitter spat in the past. Do you think that's perhaps why the president has pinpointed you for particular criticism? Well,
the history is President Trump has done lots of tweets about me, and I've done very few in response. And President Trump has done many interviews talking about me. And when I'm asked questions about President Trump, I try not to respond. I try to be the bigger man. But what's clear about some of the things he has said and some of his policies is many people in our city and our country find them objectionable. Many people who love America, love Americans, me included, don't necessarily agree with some of the policies of this president. And I, over the last few days, have spoken to many Londoners, and they call themselves Londoners, by the way, who are Americans, who'll be protesting today as well. And we want to distinguish our views in America and Americans. We love Americans in America, and some of the comments and views of President Trump. And I think it's right and proper in a democracy you can articulate your views and your concerns. That's one of the great things about living in a democracy. What's important, though, is any protest is peaceful and good-spirited. And it's really important we realise that one of the things about a special relationship is, of course, we stand together at times of adversity, shoulder to shoulder. But when we think our best friend is being wrong or not meeting our high standards from them, we call them out. And that's what I think you'll see in London today. Londoners who love Americans, love America, being disappointed about some of the views expressed by President Trump and calling him out because we see them as our best friends. And they shouldn't be worried about that. That demonstrates the strength of our friendship and relationship, but we've got confidence to do so.
Do you think that Theresa May should have invited him in the first place? Should he even be here at all?
It's really important we distinguish two things. One is a state visit where, you know, the carpet is rolled out, many days of events, state banquets and all the rest of it.
This isn't
and an official working visit.
This isn't a state visit.
And I believe quite. And so I think what I'd be against is a premature state visit. I think it was wrong for Prime Minister May to invite President Trump on a state visit. I think having a good working relationship is important with the USA. They are the leaders of the free world. They are our closest ally. It's important to have cordial relations with them. Issues from North Korea to Russia, but also trade, climate change, fighting terrorism. These are really important issues we want to discuss with our close ally, and there should be a good, healthy working relationship. I also, by the way, think that means that should include Prime Minister May saying to President Trump where she thinks he's wrong and explaining to President Trump why he's wrong in relation to terrorism, in relation to immigration, in relation to a whole host of issues. And I hope she will do that.
But was she right? Was she right to invite him on what has turned out to be a working visit, though?
No, I think it's important for Prime Minister May to see President Trump face to face, whether it's here, whether it's in America, whether it's in Brussels or elsewhere. That's important. But I don't think that should be turned into a state visit. I think it's really important that we iron out the differences we have with America. We're not going to agree on everything. Of course we're not. Look at Margaret Thatcher and President Reagan. They disagreed hugely about the Falklands War. They disagreed about the invasion of Grenada. But they had those arguments and disagreements, but worked together on other issues. I want to see Prime Minister May.
There wasn't a massive blimp of Reagan in the form of a baby wearing a nappy over Westminster, was there?
Well, let me deal with that, because it's really important we realise that actually protest and marches and demonstration in London are not new, nor is it new to protest and march against the US President. In 2003, of course, there were big demonstrations against President Bush. Now, the reality is, it's not for me to decide what's in good taste or bad taste. What's important for me as the Mayor of London is to ensure protests, which can take many forms, are peaceful and are safe. And, the fact that it may cause offence to somebody isn't a good reason to curtail the hard-fought rights we have of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And by the way, when you speak to Americans who understand the Constitution and understand the history, they agree with us.
And protest. Is there a difference between ridicule and protest? I mean, many would say that it just seems really churlish.
Well, I grew up watching Spitting Image in the 1980s, and Spitting Image had puppets of President Reagan without a brain. He wasn't offended. It didn't mean that the special relationship between Margaret Thatcher and President Reagan waned. It was because they, as politicians, understood
that was
that in a democracy we have pluralism. Well, if you read some of the banners that protesters used in 2003 when President Bush was here, if you read some of the banners that are held up in America when people utilise their rights of freedom of protest and free speech, I think we'll all agree that one of the joys of living in a democracy, whether it's London, the UK, whether it's in Washington, New York, Chicago, America, is uniquely we have these great rights. And by the way, the ambassador to the UK from the US, Ambassador Willie Johnson, 2 days ago said one of the uniquenesses that the US and the UK share is freedom of speech, and we shouldn't be scared of that.
Finally, the President's had much to say about you this morning. Is there any message that you'd like to convey to him?
I hope during the course of his visit in London and the UK, he realises that actually we are a diverse city, a diverse country. Diversity is a strength. It's one of the reasons why we are a fantastic city and a fantastic country. Immigration has brought huge benefits economically, socially and culturally to our city and our country. And I hope he realises these are things to cherish, not things to be scared of.
Sadiq Khan, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. Well, we're here in Regent's Park. I did wear my coat because I thought it would start off chilly.